Pauline, and thank you for stepping in at short notice when Denise couldn't make it. I was thinking this morning when I was putting my dishes in the dishwasher, because I've got one, that an industrial strategy is a bit like a dishwasher. Bear with me on this, people. Inputs and outputs only works if it's properly constructed, sourced, delivered and installed correctly. It's got to be used for its purpose. Recall mothers saying to teenagers, it's a dishwasher, not a dish scrubber. If it's loaded carefully, if it's used with the right products to clean, rinse and shine, regularly emptied and refilled, maintained properly, properly powered, and equally used by everybody in the household. I was just thinking that this morning before coming here. What I want to concentrate on in terms of industrial strategy is power work and how workers must be central to any progressive industrial strategy. Because as everybody here knows, work is changing. And it's zero-hour contracts, low wages, and precarious work and automation are all threats to work as we know it and to job security. And today in Glasgow, as many more people work in call centres than ever worked in the shipyards. We need to think about that when we're designing an industrial strategy for the future. And in any given nature of precarious work, it's more vital for working people to be organised together through the trade union movement and as part of the trade union movement, and to understand and be part of that fight for also industrial democracy in workplaces that might never have seen a union before. And that's what I think an industrial strategy should contain: a voice for workers and a participation of workers too. When you look at the UK's government's industrial strategy, the BEIS department, as we call it in civil service, Building a Britain for the Future, which came out in November last year, it claims it's about boosting productivity and earning power. When you read the detail, the only earning power it seeks to boost is that of bosses, entrepreneurs, and what they call innovators. That's not workers as such. It's not anything to do with the earning power of ordinary people and real workers. And you look at the Scottish Government's Council of Economic Advisers, there is no worker representation on that body, even though there are a large number of experts in our movement. There's no ordinary workers' views being forwarded by that group of advisors to the Scottish Government, and that needs to change. So where are the workers in an industrial strategy? What role have they got to play, and why are they overlooked? Where are they in creating and shaping the ideas or influencing industrial strategies? They're absolutely nowhere. The STUC as a body, it is one of many civic organisations that gets consulted on things, and we're not integral to the development and shape of an industrial strategy of the future. And that's really a big beef that I've got. And when they talk about investment in industrial strategies, we all know the recent experience of the collapse of Carillion, to see what happens when you pass over public services to private profit. A veil, I think, has been lifted following the horrific collapse of Carillion and the impact that had on 20,000 jobs in this country. But a veil has been lifted on the extent that outsourcing and privatisation has gripped our public services, and I think we need to leave that veil lifted and expose what happens in reality when the state needs to step back in and bail out companies such as Carillion. It's had its day as far as I'm concerned, and I think we have a moment now to raise that with people that are actually listening and seeing that for themselves, and we shouldn't let those people down. Because run-down services and failed privatisations have been dotted throughout the history of privatisation since the neoliberal project. projects since Thatcherism and before. If you look today in Glasgow City Council, their Cordia has been brought back in-house and we welcome that. You look at, in my union, a very small number of civil servants have been transferred into HMRC from a company called Concentrics, which was a union-busting international organisation. It took what was seen as a profitable part of tax credit debt compliance and tried to run it at a profit and absolutely failed, and we had to take several hundred workers in Belfast back in to HMRC, where they got a permanent job, where they got living wage, where they got decent terms and conditions. Look at the disaster of PFI that is only recently shown what we predicted from the very beginning. It took a school in Edinburgh to have a wall falling into a playground before people actually believed that it was all done on the cheap, and we are still paying and paying and paying on. So I think these things are really important, and these things that make me particularly angry that need to be part of what we think about when we look at workers and look at workplaces and look at industrial strategy. I also feel the need to mention fair work. In Scotland we have a fair work framework and fair work strategy. I represent the Scottish Government's, what we call the Scottish Government sector civil service workers. I lead the civil service unions negotiations with Scottish Government employers, and we have tried to get a sectoral collective bargaining agreement on fair work with those employers and with the government, who the very department is driving this for other employers in the country. And they have refused for over a year now to actually make progress. They say they want to talk to us about it. We have put down some very basic demands about what could be a fair work agreement across that sector, and they're reluctant. And that's civil servants that are slowing things down because they're worried about the impact on where what we would demand of government ministers. So these kind of things aren't just words. Fair work isn't just words, it needs to be fair work action. On pay, earning power, as the UK industrial strategy describes it, we need to look at pay across public services today and look at where people have got to with the sustained pay freeze and pay caps. There's talk across public services of the end days of the 1% pay cap. That's certainly true if you're in local government in England, where there's offers that have been balloted on, I think accepted by some unions, that lift workers there out of that. It's also fair in the health sector, and indeed in the Scottish Government we have pushed to raise the 1% cap to what is actually a 3% cap and doesn't come anywhere near where we need to be to lift people back to the wages they had before the financial crash. But the only part of the public sector so far that has refused to lift workers out of a 1% pay cap is the UK civil service, whereas employers in health and local government are prepared to work with unions and raise pressure with government to say we need to do something to end this. Only the civil service employers are continuing to demand that workers comply with a 1% pay cap, and that's something that my union is taken very seriously indeed. People will know that before Christmas we had a national consultative ballot on pay where we had a 98% turnout opposing the 1% pay cap, obviously, and then there was 78% of our members said that they would take industrial action should the government refuse to listen. We got a 49% turnout. So it was a consultative ballot. We were below the anti-Tory threshold, but only just. So what we've been doing since then until now is working in every workplace across the country to get those workers ballot ready. And we're now taking a motion to our national conference next month for a statutory ballot on pay should the government refuse to budge on that 1% pay cap for civil servants. So I think it was important just to let people know that that's what we are planning. I think that with what we're doing in our union and what other unions have proven over recent months, whether it's the CWU, whether it's the BIFAB unions, where it's the equal pay cases in Glasgow City Council, our universities, higher education, further education. There is a new industrial militancy out there that doesn't look like what people would regard as demand for a general strike. That's not how people are seeing it. It's about trying to raise awareness and fight for what's right on a sectoral trade basis, and we need to acknowledge that. So an industrial strategy, therefore, in the context of such industrial anger across different parts of the economy, requires the true participation of workers on pay, on job design, and on industrial democracy. The UK's industrial strategy reads to me like platitudes and free money for corporations at the expense of the public, us with no accountability. Richard Leonard has an industrial strategy for Scotland that I think is different. Richard Leonard was the first person I ever heard live, rather than somebody I read, speaking about industrial democracy. Richard's strategy for an industrial strategy isn't just something that's dreamed up when he was standing for the leader of the Labour Party. Richard has been on the Morningstar platforms and he's written extensively for almost as long as I've known him about these issues, and therefore I have confidence that Richard will help us bring together for Scotland an industrial strategy that will actually work for workers. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.